What is our mind? This is one of the most deep and fundamental questions of existence. When Friedrich Nietzsche wrote about der Wille zur Macht, the will to power, what is the mind that the will to power emanates from? What is the mind from which Friedrich Nietzsche composed Thus Spoke Zarathustra? Is the mind a soul that is subject to a reincarnated eternal return? Or is the mind simply the brain? What is the mind that begat the nihilism of Friedrich Nietzsche and the pessimism of Arthur Schopenhauer? Is the mind a soul that lives on after the shell of our bodies die? Or is the mind simply an illusory epiphenomenon in the manner of Daniel Dennett?
All I'm saying is that we have no way to be certain that you aren't simply mislabeling a function of the brain as an entity unto itself, because asserting that there is the brain and the mind is dualism.
I'm not asserting that there is a brain in the mind. I'm asserting that the brain is in the mind, rather.
The brain is in the mind. I don't see any reason to assert that at all. I see only the brain and the brain doing stuff.
We can find out what the mind is by eliminating what the mind is not. Is the brain in the mind, entailing an idealist view of the mind in the manner of Platonic Christian idealist Johann Friedrich Ratz? Alas, no. We can eliminate that option since the mind is the element of a person that enables them to be aware of the world and their experiences, to think and to feel, the faculty of consciousness and thought. Thus, the mind is what a person has. Minds are possessed by persons. Persons are not possessed by minds. Further, the mind requires time, and on an idealist paradigm, there can be no time, since time is of the material realm, and immaterial phenomenon are by definition timeless. Is the mind a substance or entity in the manner of French philosopher René Descartes and his substance dualism, where there are two fundamental kinds of substance, mental and material? No, we can eliminate that option, as Johann Friedrich Ratz tells us that substance dualism is impossible because of the internal contradictions posed by the interaction problem. And I wholeheartedly agree. Is the mind an illusion that thus does not exist in the manner of Daniel Dennett? We must reject this option as completely incoherent and nonsensical, since I cannot deny my mind, as that would leave me in self-contradiction. If I am to say my mind does not exist, I must think in order to make that denial to begin with, thereby proving I have a mind. Is the mind identical to the brain? Alas, no. We must reject this as well, since the mind clearly has first-person ontology and the brain has third-person ontology. So if the mind is not identical to the brain, and the mind is not a substance in its own right, and if the mind is not an illusion or a Platonic form, what option is left?
I know what you're trying to do.
I'm trying to free your mind, Neo, but I can only show you the door. You're the one that has to walk through it.
We are left with the one clear and true option. The mind is an emergent property, an emergent effect of the brain. The correct option for understanding what our mind is the model of the mind known as property dualism. This means that while the mind is irreducible to the brain, when a physical substrate is organized in a given complex constitution, it can give rise to properties that are different from the subvening base. So while reality is constituted of the one fundamental substance, the physical, there are two distinct kinds of properties, the physical and the mental. The thoughts of the will to power, the thoughts of the Übermensch, The thought of eternal recurrence is the effect of the brain and the phenomenon of strong emergence.
I know what you're trying to do.
I'm trying to free your mind, Neo. But I can only show you the door. You're the one that has to walk through it.